Okay, I call the meeting of the Morgantown Planning Commission to order. Does anyone want me to read the pre-meeting announcement?
Nope.
Okay. First matter on the agenda is general public comments on matters that are not on the agenda. Anyone have any comments on matters not on the agenda? Okay, next we go to the minutes of the May 11th meeting.
Move to approve as presented.
Second.
A motion, second, all in favor? Unanimous,
Abstain.
except for Mr. Schuman, who abstains. Move on to new business, TX 23-01, Robert Bennett dwelling multifamily mixed-use building and dwelling mixed use.
Thank you, Mr. President. Background, the applicant owns District 15, Tax Map 6, Parcel 18, more commonly known as 440 Drummond Street. According to the property owner, the two-story building has 3 apartments located on the 2nd floor, and you can see here on your screen. And the first floor could be used for a variety of other uses, including commercial office space. However, the property has been vacant for more than a year and therefore has lost its grandfather status in accordance with Section 1373.05 of the city's Planning and Zoning Code. To address this issue, the applicant is seeking to amend Table 1331.0501, which is the permitted land use table, to permit the following uses in a pro district by conditional use permit. They include dwelling mixed use, dwelling multifamily, and mixed use building. In terms of analysis, the pro zone was established to provide a mixed use of professional, office, and appropriate residential uses in transition areas between more intensive commercial districts and less intensive residential neighborhood districts. And after review, all but 2 of the districts zoned pro are located in and around Patterson Drive, Van Voris Road, and the University Drive corridors. They include North Willie Street between College Avenue and Garden City Apartments, and Sturgis Avenue between Dug Hill Road and El Jadad Street. And you can see column or addendum C in your packet, and I also have the districts up there on the screen. In terms of the comprehensive plan as it pertains to the proposed zoning text amendments, all the pro districts in the city were identified in the conceptual growth framework regional vision map as either encouraged growth or infill. The one exception was the pro district along Collins Ferry Road between University Avenue and Burroughs. This area appears to be identified as limited growth, and in your packet you can see the definitions that correspond. The following land use patterns and characters were identified in the pro district. They include university, commercial corridor, neighborhood corridor, and Mountain Valley corridor. Noting neighborhood corridor, looking at the definition, includes a mix of building types such as small residential buildings along the street and suburban style buildings set back behind surface parking lots. Uses also vary and include commercial, office, and multifamily residential. With the exception of North Willie Street and portions of property along Birch Street, all of the pro districts were identified in the land management plan, which is basically the future land use map, as corridor enhancement, and you can see the definition there. North Willie Street, again in that same defined limited geography, was identified as encouraged growth, and that was defined as areas where new growth is encouraged primarily for economic development. The area north and south of Birch Street was defined as WVU campus development, and you can see the definition there. The following further describes the development typologies in your packet on page 17. They include multifamily, civic and institutional, neighborhood center mixed use, urban center mixed use, which is just in the encouraged growth concept area, community commercial, office research, limited industrial, which is just in the encouraged growth concept area, and cluster development. After review, the proposed text amendments to Table 1331 of the permitted land use table appears to be consistent with the regional vision, conceptual growth framework, and land management plan described in the 2013 comprehensive plan update. More specifically, the proposed zoning text amendments to permit the 3 uses identified here are in keeping with the regional vision to capture further growth in the city's corporation limits and along commercial corridors. And any of the proposed uses established in the pro district would still be subject to the development standards set forth in 1341, which is an addendum F in your packet. And I believe the applicant is here this evening, so if you have any further questions.
I have a question for you real quick.
Yes, sir.
At the last meeting, did we not discuss that we were going to look at the entire pro district?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And this is...
This application was submitted before that decision was made.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
When are we talking about looking at the entire pro district? Is that in conjunction with the comprehensive plan or separate and apart from it?
Well, let me just interrupt. So when you say looking at the pro district, we're talking about the definition of uses in the pro district? Or
Yes.
Not the mapping of where the pro
Correct.
district's going?
Yeah, the uses, yeah,
Okay.
that's what we talked about at the last meeting.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So, we're right on the edge of starting the process to review the final, the comprehensive plan update for 2023. We anticipate that becoming available to the public for review in the next couple of months, and then starting that adoption process once we have some more input from both the steering committee and the planning commission in terms of implementation strategies. So staff's preference would probably be a way to get that completed, see what the recommendations are, make sure the planning commission, the steering committee, and all the other bodies that need to review and approve it are in line with it, and then do the assessment.
Okay, and that's, what you mean by that is rather than looking at the pro district and the uses in the pro district separate and apart from the comprehensive plan, we look at it together, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And based on the new comprehensive plan.
Okay. The applicant's present. Anything you want to add? Or where you are? Nope. Okay. Anybody have any questions for the applicant? Okay, any member of the audience who'd like to speak in favor of the petition? Anyone in opposition? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I live on Windsor
Yeah,
Avenue.
you have to come up to the microphone and state your name and address, please.
Jerry Summers, 1078 Windsor Avenue. I live just right down the street from this property, and I think the use of what Mr. Bennett and Mrs. Bennett want to do with it will go fine with the neighborhood. It's on the other side of Drummond, and it's a nice building. I hate to see it go into a big-time commercial use or anything else where they can continue to use the apartments that Ms. Lynch had built originally upstairs. Just makes a lot more sense than turning into something I don't want to see in my neighborhood. Because everything else on the other side is R1, which is where we are going down Windsor. So I would hope that the commission would permit this and let it go through as the 3 apartments and then, something moderate down on the ground floor.
Okay.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you all.
Does anyone want to speak in opposition to the petition? Okay, staff recommendations, please.
Well, the proposed additional conditional uses of the pro district described above are likely consistent with the 2013 comp plan. The plan currently underway, Morgantown 2033, will more accurately address current community planning goals and is forthcoming, and the text amendments affecting citywide classifications may be better made with reference to the plan when adopted. And as we just discussed, based on the case that we heard at the last planning commission meeting that was tabled for further discussion to reevaluate the whole pro district and the uses that are permitted in it, would be to table.
You're recommending the same,
Correct.
basically the same thing for this table until we get the new comprehensive plan.
Correct. Yes, sir.
And look at the pro district within that.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for the planner?
Have you talked to the applicant and seen if this delay would be problematic for them?
We have not had the opportunity to talk about that yet.
How long a delay are we talking?
Given our current trajectory, we're probably looking 4 to 6 months to get through the adoption process.
Are there, please, I'm
you go ahead.
interested in whatever
We're
the
pretty informal
circumstance
here.
might be.
We're pretty
I
informal.
apologize. Jerry Summers again. I'm not Mr. Bennett, obviously, but I know his thoughts on this. To wait that 4 to 6 months, in Morgantown, the timing of those type of leases and apartments are crucial. To wait that period of time really cuts out the window of possible university. But I think primarily there's been some discussion with people such as nurses and whatnot at WVU Ruby that this is just a perfect location for them to live. So I worry as far as for Mr. Bennett on his behalf that by waiting, we really create a little bit of a hardship in trying to get these things finally rented because he keeps shelling out money to to keep a nice property in the city and can't do anything with it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I think it's important to know what the situation, what their situation is. And I'm reticent to ask them to fall into this bureaucratic timeline. It's through no fault of theirs. They put the application in as they needed and desired. So the question in front of us, as I understand it, Mr. Yeager, is whether or not this proposed text amendment is consistent with the 2013 comprehensive plan. That's our job, and then to forward it to city council.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Correct. The applicant, we've had several discussions about whether to pursue the option of a zoning text amendment or to look at rezoning. And it was decided after conversation to go ahead and put forth a zoning text amendment. But again, the changes that would allow the full use of that property, as Mr. Summers pointed out, would also be impacting every other part of the pro district, right? So that.
Right,
Yeah.
and that's the problem that I have, is if we're doing something with the pro district, why are we going to make a change now and then potentially change again in a few months?
Because these people have a need.
And I understand that, but
need right now.
we're not supposed to look at what the issue with the property is, we're supposed to look at global issues, correct?
I think we're obliged to look at the needs of the citizens who come to us with petitions. And specifically, the question before us is whether this request meets the comprehensive plan, and it certainly does. I mean, it's stated differently, it's
Sure.
consistent with the comprehensive plan.
Right. The other the point that staff would make is that if the text amendments were approved for mixed-use buildings, then the conversation then becomes, well, then if we start looking at other types of commercial uses that are appropriate, they would be allowed, obviously, in a mixed-use type situation. That's not the question here, right, in terms of what other commercial uses will be permitted other than what's already permitted in the pro, which, as we've discussed at our last meeting, is limited in nature. So that's the reason for the larger context for having a discussion about it and evaluation of the entire pro.
With regard to this applicant, if the council approves the text amendment, no matter what we do later on, 6 months or later, they're in. And that use is allowed and allowable and would be grandfathered as allowable into the code, even if the next iteration of the pro district says no to these kinds of uses.
Yes, sir.
That'll get them in for this property.
Well, okay,
For this
so,
property.
but now we're doing things for this property when that's not what our real
Right. and
goal
that's-
is.
That's my problem. This is clearly, this makes sense, but if we change the entire pro district, now anyone can come in and build a large apartment building in any pro district that we have. I understand this one's only 3 units or whatever, but the next one could be 20 units.
One of the, oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Just that one of the points that in the pro district already, single-family and two-family homes and townhomes are already permitted. Multifamily is not. So that's one of the requests based on the number of units, hence the request is to fully occupy that space. That's one of the reasons why
So-
the applicants. Yeah.
I guess what you're saying is, they have, how many units in here, 3?
On the top floor, yes,
And-
sir.
But they can right now rent 2, right?
My understanding, yes.
So they can rent 2, get some income from it, as we stand right now, yes? And because it's pro, can they rent something commercial too?
Multi-use, non-residential buildings require a conditional use permit.
So what they'd have to do is then go to the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Yes.
So it's not like the building has to sit empty while we're doing this. It can be making some money. It can be renting 2 of the apartments. It can be potentially getting something in the commercial space while the new comprehensive plan is being done. And let me ask you this, as we're stepping on around this, in the new comprehensive plan, are we close enough to know whether this is something that would be allowed within the new comprehensive plan? Or do we not know yet?
We're still in the draft phase, and I'd rather wait to make any comments until the steering committee and planning commission has had a workshop to review what's being proposed.
Okay.
Can I get a clarification on something you said? It said,
Yes,
you
sir.
said multi-use, non-residential buildings are conditional.
Correct.
However, if you have apartments above it, then does it become a mixed-use dwelling?
If you have apartments, it's a mixed-use building or a mixed-use dwelling. That's why both of them
Which
are
is not permitted in Pro right now.
correct.
So
So,
they couldn't do anything on the first floor, but they could rent the 2 apartments upstairs.
Correct.
Right now.
yes, sir.
Second question I had was, and I'm sorry, I misinterpreted this. For which map were you referring to as being consistent with the comprehensive plan? What page?
In terms of,
The, as we kind of look at,
let's see here.
You know, as
Let me flip back here.
Mr. Stranko talked
It
about
is-
encourage growth or whatever. Is that what we're talking about, that map on 38? Or-
Page 42 really looks at what the future land uses and the different typologies that would be appropriate in those districts. So page 42, 43, and 44. And you can see all of those areas that are shaded as the corridor enhancement, which make provisions or at least state that multifamily mixed use, and generally speaking, more density would probably be encouraged, because those are our growth opportunities. The one exception would be in the, let's see, where is it? There was a limited growth area identified in the comprehensive plan growth management map, and that was on page 38 of your packet, but that's actually referring more to Collins Ferry Road and up that area between University and Burroughs, where there wouldn't, it's not necessarily
Yeah,
the dire.
because that one cuts into the R1 neighborhood right now. That's why I was looking at that one. It didn't
I know
make
it runs,
sense,
it's
so-
the little swiggle that runs right up through there.
Yeah, that, it's not good. Okay. All right, thank you for the clarification.
Any other discussion or questions? Okay, do we have a motion?
Well, a motion on what? I want to remind my colleagues that the question is whether this application is consistent with the comprehensive plan. It's not whether we like the application or whether the application is timely or not, or whether we have a better idea of how to process the application, or whether it fits into our grand strategy. The simple question is, by the code, is this consistent with the comprehensive plan?
Excuse me.
So, go ahead.
Well, I guess the question is, if we approve this application as consistent with the comprehensive plan, would that mean that any other property within the comprehensive plan then allows for this type of development?
No, it means that city council gets to have this, our advice on this and any other application. Now, council may choose to say just what we've discussed, that this all needs to wait until we have the strategic outlook completed. But that's not our prerogative, that's the city council's prerogative.
But if we're telling them that, then are we telling them the same
All-
question, that
all we're
you can
telling-
apply this anywhere in the pro district that is within the comprehensive plan is,
If we feel it's
development.
consistent with the comprehensive plan.
and then we would have to look at every of those areas and see if we're willing to do that.
Yeah, because what we're doing is we're doing a zoning text amendment. We're not doing, okay, this piece of property can do that. We're saying the pro district can now do that. And then anybody within the pro district can do that. And it may lead to some consequences that are not
And
what, go ahead.
I was gonna say, and after staff looked at it, again, going back to whether you try to rezone it, the only, in terms of rezoning, the only options would probably not be amenable either in terms of rezoning. After we had more conversations with the applicant in terms of what they wanted to do with the property, given its location.
Yeah, and I get that. I understand it. And
Yeah.
And staff's report is that this application is consistent with the comprehensive.
Based on the land management plan, we,
2013 comprehensive plan.
but again, in the wider context and based on future changes, that's why staff was recommending to hold.
Again, I think it's a good recommendation. I just think it's not ours to take or ours to act upon. The question under the code is whether this is consistent with the plan, and it is. So I make a motion that we forward this application to City Council with the comment that we find it to be consistent with the 2013 comprehensive plan.
Okay, there's a motion to move the zoning text amendment forward to city council and recommend approval. Do I have a second?
No, I
Second.
didn't say recommend approval.
That's
I
what,
did
that's
not
what we
say
do.
recommend approval. No, I said that it is consistent with the comprehensive plan.
I
Forward
thi-
to the city council with the advice that we are obliged by statute to provide, which is whether or not this is consistent with the comprehensive plan.
I think that what we do with zoning text amendments, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, anybody can, because I probably am wrong, is that we either recommend approval or disapproval of the zoning text amendment, and they can do what they want with it. But that's our role is, with text amendments to the code, is we recommend you approve this text amendment, or we recommend you reject this text amendment.
I don't agree. I don't agree. I think the code's pretty clear on the state code is clear. I think there is ambiguity in the city code, but the state code would control. It does control. But I'm happy to amend the motion to include that we recommend enactment. It's consistent with the comprehensive plan, and we recommend enactment.
Okay, there's a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Did you
I'm
wanna
still
say-
confused. I mean, I'm trying to think, I get it, it's consistent with the plan, but the pro zone is not consistent with this. And the pro zoning is part of the plan, right?
Right.
So we have discordance, right, between two pieces of the plan. And so if we're going to send something to city council, we say it's consistent with this part of the plan, but it's inconsistent with the pro zoning.
I dislike the pro
Can
zone
I just-
as well, and if its intention is to be a neighborhood buffer, we discussed at our last meeting that the pro zone currently wouldn't allow for a neighborhood coffee shop, and I guarantee you that the neighborhoods would rather have a coffee shop than a 20-unit apartment building in the buffer zone.
Can I address your point, Dr. Petros? Of course, it's not consistent with the code because it's a proposed amendment. By its nature, it's inconsistent with the existing code. What we're saying is, does the comprehensive plan prohibit or preclude this sort of land use? And what we heard from the planner is no. In fact, the land use plan and the comprehensive plan supports this. Would support this amendment.
I don't know. Why are we here if we're just blessing what's in the plan? The city council can do that
Because
themselves.
well, we do a lot of other things too, of course.
Minor
Because the
subdivisions.
state, with regard to amending the zoning code, the state code is clear on what our duties are, and they're limited to advising council on whether or not this is consistent with the comp plan. You got something to say? Yes,
No,
you
sir.
do.
Oh, I
Yes, you do.
I saw your mouth open. I
Yeah,
wanted
you do. Give it up.
I mean, and I get it, and I understand the issues, and I understand wanting to do something with this property, and it was grandfathered in, and for some reason it missed the 1-year window. I get all that. Go ahead. Anyway,
Well, we've got
We have a motion and a second.
Motion and a second. Call the question.
okay. All in favor of moving to city council? All opposed?
Ooh.
Okay.
No, what was,
He was
Okay.
opposed.
Okay.
So if there's no other motion, this application just dies for lack of a motion from commission. Is that, or?
Yeah, so what we can do now is we can have a motion to forward to city council recommended to reject this text amendment and vote on that, and then that way something goes to city council, and then
I
they can
think-
choose what to do with it.
I-
Go ahead.
Well, that
That's-
motion would
that-
have to say this is inconsistent with the comprehensive plan, and it's
No,
not.
what
It's
you, because
consistent.
what the motion was and was approved is you denied, you made a recommendation not to approve the proposed text amendment to
Okay.
council.
Right,
That
so
was-
then that goes
That,
So that will still go to city council and they can do whatever they choose to do with it?
correct.
Okay,
Goes to
good.
council.
As long as it goes to city council
Yes.
and they get a
Yeah.
shot at city council. That's
Yeah,
what I
so,
want to make sure.
yeah, per Mr. Stranko's motion was to move to approve the text amendments and recommend enactment. And, right, and then the vote was to not approve that. So that will be what comes from staff's comments to council in terms of what they need to do next.
So your point is we're done, and I agree, we're done with this one.
We're done. It still goes to city council. They get a shot at city council.
Yes, it'll go committee of the whole first.
Okay. Okay, as long as I want them to get a shot at city council too. So, just want to make sure of that. Okay. Okay. So, moving on to the next one is MJS 22-01 R&R Holdings 3 LLC, 1345 Van Vorst Road.
All right. Just pulled the site plan up on the screen. On August 11th, 2022, the Planning Commission held a public hearing to consider case number MJS 22-01. After review, the commission granted the applicant conditional approval of the preliminary plat with conditions for the major subdivision. Per section 131708H of the city's planning and zoning code regarding the preliminary plat, quote, conditional approval shall be effective for a period of 12 months unless, upon application of the developer, the commission grants an extension. If the final plat has not been recorded within this time limit, the preliminary plat must again be submitted to the commission for approval. Therefore, to address this issue, the applicant is requesting a 6-month extension to the conditionally approved plat. Staff has had several conversations with the applicant's representative, and the preliminary plat has not changed since it was approved on August 11th, 2022.
I guess my first question is it's good for a year. Does that mean a year to start or a year to finish? Because I was unsure of that.
It's good to, you have to file the final plat within that 12-month window.
Okay.
And there's 2 ways to do that. Either you complete the improvements and the city certifies that it's done, or you put a bond up and that's how the final plat can be approved
Okay.
without the improvements being made ahead of time.
Okay. I was confused about that. Anyway, okay. So the requesting is 6 months extension. Anybody have any questions for the planner real fast? Nope. Applicants here?
Yes, sir.
Anything the applicant wants to add?
If you do come up, just sign your name before you.
Sure.
Thank you, sir.
Mike Nestor, Ascent Consulting and Engineering. I represent the client. It's pretty simple, really. We got approved in August, so we're headed into fall. We're working out a lot of issues between contracts and the song and dance that has to happen between the site work and MUB's work on site. So ideally, we would get approved, we'd start first thing in the spring, we'd be done. And it's a small project in general. We don't need 12 months to do it. We just need the right weather window. What has to happen on this site is MUB has to come in, prepare a stormwater tap for us at their schedule. We've got a contractor that's ready to go to do the site work, move the dirt, prepare the pads. Then they have to mow out. MUB comes back in, installs water and sewer lines because we can't do that work for them. And then we have to come back in after, complete the roads, sidewalks, curbs, asphalt, and get it done. So at the time of August through fall and winter, we're working out schedules with MUB when they can mow in and out, when we can get a contractor under contract. And that stuff took some time. MUB did come in and do the stormwater tap. So it's prepared for us to mobilize in with contractor. We're trying to get that next phase of it done, and there's just not enough time under that in August. Makes it awfully tight, right? Right now, if we can get our grading permit, building permit in so that these guys can start the site work, MUB will come back in July, complete the water and sewer lines, and then we can button it up in the fall and be done. And so that's the better method in terms of my opinion for that to happen, and then we can prepare the final plat. I hate for them to have to come in and bond something and rush that through if we can get the majority of the work completed and done prior to. So that's why we're filing for this extension.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for the applicant? Okay. Thanks. Any member of the audience who'd like to speak in favor of the petition? Anyone in opposition? Okay, do we have any staff recommendations?
Staff does not object to the proposed extension, and if the commission approves it, it should be conditioned upon the previous conditions listed in the staff report.
So
at that
moved.
time.
Have a motion, to have a second?
Second.
Motion second, all in favor? And that's unanimous.
Who was the second? I'm sorry. Mike.
Mike. Committee reports. Any committee reports? Staff comments?
Just a few, as you saw in probably your email, we received a communication from Charlie Shobe. He's taking employment out of Morgantown, so we appreciate his service, and I enjoy getting to know him. He was eager to learn when he was getting onboarded. We had some really good conversations, and he always was ready to ask a lot of good questions at the meeting. So we wish him and his family all the best. Mr. Schuman, this is his last evening tonight for now.
Come on, man.
Well, it's more of a see you later, right?
Yeah.
Maybe see you next month.
No longer be representing this ward,
Yep.
but we'll be back. And then in terms of there is no new business at this time scheduled for the July 13th hearing, but we'd like to go ahead and schedule a workshop for the comprehensive plan draft and work through the implementation strategies with our consultant. It will probably be done virtually, but we could meet together, or if you'd rather meet virtually, we could, and have that meeting. So we will send the comprehensive plan out to the full commission and provide input.
Okay,
And that's all I have, sir.
good. Anything for the good of the commission?
Move to adjourn?
Second.
Okay, let's go.
Thank you.